Welcome to the Education Exchange, where we aim to enlighten our parents and empower our students. I'm your host, Jeremy Calles, Superintendent here at Tolleson Union High School District. And today we're going to talk about National Board Certified Teachers, NBCT. And here to tee off that conversation is Stephen Humble. Stephen, would you tell everybody about yourself?
Yes, my name's Stephen Humble. I am the Science Department Chair at La Joya Community High School. I teach AP Biology and Biology. I've been teaching for 14 years and have been a National Board Certified Teacher since 2018.
All right. So let's talk about NBCT, National Board Certified Teachers. First, what is it for everybody out there who's not familiar?
So, National Board Certification is the highest level of teaching certification a teacher in the United States can earn. On average, less than 3% of teachers in the US hold that certificate. I believe there are less than 1,500 of them in Arizona. It's a very rigorous process by which teachers go above and beyond to demonstrate their accomplishment in the teaching profession. The process can take between 1 and 5 years and renews every 5 years through what's called maintenance of certificate. In order to earn certification, teachers have to demonstrate their abilities as an accomplished teacher. They do that through an assessment portion, along with portfolio entries reflecting on their work, analyzing student work, and analyzing assessment data. That entire process provides a language and a common vernacular for teachers to articulate the learning that they are causing in the students in their classroom. For me, it's been a transformational experience. I became a National Board Certified Teacher in 2018, and I can honestly say it's the best professional development I have ever done without exception. It doesn't even come close. So, National Board Certification is an amazing process that allows our teachers to demonstrate their accomplishment in the classroom.
So it helps them demonstrate their accomplishment. But is it also then helping them develop their skill sets and improving the mechanism by which they are teaching their classes?
Absolutely. I oftentimes tell teachers when they're beginning their national board journey that there is no way to, I say, fake your way through it. You have to know what you're doing in order to get through it. And it really allows teachers to discover things within their own practice they didn't even know. I'll give you a great example through my process. One of our components is component 3, where you have to record two 10 to 15-minute videos of yourself teaching. Now, anyone who's been a teacher knows watching a recording of yourself teaching is hard. It's awkward and it can be very, very scary because it's really hard to see yourself on camera, especially if the angles aren't great, which they oftentimes aren't. And one thing I noticed when I was recording my very first lesson is I noticed the way I walked around my classroom, not intentionally, but I noticed I was missing certain tables when I was walking around while students were working. I had no idea, and had I not watched that video, I never would have known. So I sort of tricked myself and I put little X's on the floor. So when I walked around my classroom, I would literally have to hit every single mark to force myself to go to every single table. And that's something you maybe never would have seen if I hadn't recorded myself. The same thing is true of every teacher that goes through that process. When you record yourself teaching, when you look critically at your students' work, when you look critically at your lesson planning and the assessment results, you see things in your own practice. You become better at reflecting on those on a daily basis, and you become really, really good at identifying what accomplished practice looks like in your classroom and what student success looks like in your classroom.
Now you said in Arizona it's a very small percentage, and even nationwide a very small percentage of teachers that become nationally board certified. How does it look in Tolleson? How many teachers are we sitting with now, and what's our trajectory look like for developing out more NBCT teachers?
So we have 5 national board certified teachers in the district right now. I believe 3 of them are in schools and 2 of them are at the district office supporting our teachers. We also have 29 teachers who are current candidates. Score release will be happening in December. I think, have 2 or 3 that may certify. They may not, and they may continue to revise, and that's okay too. We have 29 that are current candidates, and we have 8 at the moment who are getting ready to start pre-candidacy in the spring. One of the incentives here in the Tolleson district is that we offer a very high stipend. We have $5,000 for every year you hold a certificate. And I oftentimes say that it's an excellent incentive for teachers because there is research that shows students of NBCTs end up gaining 1 to 2 months extra instruction in the same 180-day school year. Those teachers, as they reflect through that process, become more effective, and those students they reap the rewards of that. So we're working on getting, as my personal goal, I want at least one NBCT in every school that we have, including DLA, including Continuing Education Academy, including Lighthouse. Eventually, I'd like to get one in every department at every school. Now, that's a very long-term goal because this process is rigorous. It's time-consuming. It does take time, and It is challenging. I tell teachers at the very beginning, this is a challenging process. It's not easy. It's not something, you can just sort of do on the back burner. It is very time consuming, but it's also very much worth it. Not only for the students, but for your own practice.
Now the stipend is a great incentive, um, but that's not the only thing that we're doing to help teachers along the way. And you referenced how you had a personal goal of how you want to get MBCT across all of our campuses. But it is a personal goal because you are a part of the process on how we are getting more MBCT teachers. Can you speak more to that and what you're doing to help the district with getting more
Absolutely.
teachers?
So I'm a big believer in this process, and going back to what I said earlier, it is the best professional development I ever did. I am a much better teacher now than I was before going through this process. And because I believe in it so much, I go out during our all day professional development and I introduce this process. I speak to it to my department, to the people that I work with. There's a lot of people from La Jolla who are doing it because I don't stop talking about it. And I encourage our teachers to do it. Um, so that's part of it, is by going out and advertising, this is the benefits of it. Of all the teachers that I work with, there's not one person who walked in and said, "I'm just here for the money." Because it's too hard. Like it's a nice incentive for teachers, but you do it because you believe in the work, you believe in the students, and you want to be the best version of yourself you can be. I know that as a teacher, like I said, I hate to keep saying it, but I'm a better teacher than I was having gone through the process. Now, don't get me wrong, the money is nice. It's nice to be recognized for that professional growth and professional development, but it's not the reason that anyone starts the process. It's wanting to be one of the better teachers for those students that walk into your classroom every day. It's wanting to serve those students better. It's the reason that drives me to want to have that many teachers in the district that do it.
The stipend is nice. In fact, the district received an award for the stipend for
Among the
matching.
highest in the state, I believe.
Yes, match for highest in the state on rewarding teachers who are willing to go through all of this extra work to better prepare themselves for our students. But is there some other level of distinction that the district can achieve where you would personally take pride in that of like, I'm glad I helped them get to that point?
Um, I'm not aware of districts that have NBCTs in other schools. I'm sure they exist. I don't have the data to support that. I think that if I could get one into every school, that would be a personal accomplishment for me because the work radiates. When you work with NBCTs, you know it. There's just a different vibe around that particular teacher because of the level of commitment they've had to make to their craft, to the level of commitment they've made to their practice. Um, Getting one into every school and then into every department, this work grows exponentially. When you just hear about it, if you get an email saying, "Hey, we'd like you to pursue national board certification, it's something to consider," people get lots of emails. But when you start to see it in practice, when you start to work with those teachers, and when you start to see the growth occur naturally, that's the thing that would bring me joy, is to not have it just be one or two people pursuing this work, but when it grows organically on its own, that's how I know I've really have hit where I'm going.
We have a lot of parents and students who listen in on the show, and you talked about how it's significant it would be to have one in every single department. Want to kind of talk through that a little bit more because parents and students, they may not be familiar with what teachers are doing on a regular basis to work on their craft, to perfect their craft, to improve their craft. And could you talk a little bit about the professional learning teams and professional learning communities and how much of a difference it makes if somebody in your PLT is an MBCT?
Absolutely. So one of the things that, at least at in the PLC process, that we strongly believe is that you don't get a teacher, you get a team. So if you are getting a biology teacher, if you're enrolled, you don't get just me as your biology teacher, you get the biology team because we work together to both plan and intervene and enrich all of the students we serve, not just the ones necessarily on my roster. If you have an NBCT on that team, you're getting that knowledge as part of that collaborative process. This district is incredibly collaborative. We build time in for teachers to collaborate to help better serve our students. So if you have an NBCT on a team that your student is on, you're getting that expertise. Maybe not directly in the classroom, as if that person was in front of you, but you are getting that expertise in planning. You're getting that expertise with developing assessments and with developing interventions and enrichments for all of the students we serve.
Now, we also try to get some of our staff to listen in on the show. And if we have teachers out there and they're considering becoming a national board certified teacher outside of the stipend, what else would you give them as words of encouragement first that they can do it, that like they should not be looking at themselves and thinking, well, I don't know if I can become nationally board certified. A little bit of encouragement on like you can do this, and you will definitely appreciate that you made the decision to go after NBCT.
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, the process is rigorous. I make no qualms about telling people that it is a rigorous process. But one of the things I can tell you is you will have so much support around you as you go through that process. So we start, one of the things we partner with the Arizona K-12 Center that provides funding for candidates to go through this process. The process costs $425 per component. So it's $1,900 for a teacher to go through the process. The K-12 Center pays for that for candidates who are going through that. So around that, the K-12 Center has built this system of support. The first thing they do is a pre-candidacy class before they even decide, where they'll spend 4 Wednesdays with me, and we will go through each of the four components in detail so candidates understand not only what physical things they have to do, what materials they have to produce, but also the philosophy behind the national board. There's something called the 5 core propositions in the national board process. Those are that teachers are committed to students and their learning. Teachers know the subjects they teach and how to teach those subjects to students. They're responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. They think systematically about their practice and learn from experience, and they're members of learning communities. You mentioned those, and if you ask 5 people what they mean, you might get 15 different answers. The pre-candidacy class allows us as coaches to get everyone on the same page, to really discuss and get deep into what the national board means when they say things, what they're looking for from their candidates, so that our teachers are fully informed about what the process looks like before they have committed to doing anything. Once they become candidates, we have monthly meetings here at the district office. And these meetings can be anything the candidate wants them to be. We provide updates from the K-12 Center and the National Board, but we also provide space to work. It can literally be, I need half an hour where I can put on some headphones and no one's going to bother me and I can get some work done. Or you can come to a coach and say, I need some help. Can you read through this and we can work through a couple of problems together? Can you help me understand what something is asking? They can collaborate with their peers who are going through this process at the same time. And this is provided at the district office in a space, in a setting where they're comfortable with people that they're comfortable with. Additionally, the K-12 Center has what they call coaching Saturdays, which are phenomenal. They are on Saturdays in the spring. Teachers have an opportunity to work with candidates in their same certificate area. I have teachers here who are going through counseling certificates. I'm not a school counselor. I've been in education for a long time, but that is not my area of expertise. Having access to a counseling certificate coach would be incredibly helpful. So the K-12 Center provides that for them as well. So while this process is rigorous, this process can be time consuming, you will not be unsupported in this process. There is an enormous layer of support that we have built into all of this so that teachers are able to engage in this process and able to feel like they have all the tools they need to be successful.
So they can absolutely do it. Sometimes they need a little bit of motivation. Sometimes the stipend's not the motivation. I know as we go through our day, each and every school day, we have all of our teachers on the campuses trying to encourage our students to become the best versions of themselves. What can our students do to encourage our teachers to become the best versions of themselves? And maybe if a teacher got that push from a student, that would put them into the mindset of, you know what, I even have my students telling me I should do it, I should go become nationally board certified. So for our students out there who know that they have a great teacher, what's some words of encouragement that they can offer on to that teacher to kind of push them in this direction of like, why don't you go become NBCT?
Well, the first thing I would say is send a link to this podcast to their email and just say, I think you can do it. I honestly think that would be a great push. One of the things that I've always believed as a teacher is recognition and awards are great. Right, being recognized by your peers, being recognized by the district, being recognized by the state. Those are all great. The most important thing to me is that my students care that I've made a difference. That to me means more than anything else, more than any outside person. So if you're a student and you have a teacher out there that means a lot to you and that you think can do this and you should send them this and tell them, I think you can do this. Um, I can tell you personally, when I got the email, you find out in December, about 10 o'clock at night, usually on a Friday. It's supposed to be midnight Central Time, but we get, time zones. Um, when I find out I certified, the very first thing I did was get up out of bed, go over to my laptop and change my email signature to add the letters onto the end of my name, because it was an incredibly proud moment for me. So students telling their teachers, hey, we can be proud together, I think that would be really powerful.
Well, maybe we can get enough students to do that. They'll help you get to your goal of getting one MBCT into every department at every one of our schools, and that'd be a great accomplishment. Anything else for you'd like to share with students, parents, staff members about MBCT and things they should know about MBCT?
I think the biggest message that I can give is that it's hard and it's worth it. It's absolutely the best professional development I've ever done. As teachers, a lot of times there's a million different things coming our way. There's initiatives, the state might change the standards. There's all kinds of things. The national board process sort of brings it all together in a way that makes you more confident as a teacher, that makes you more sure of yourself, and it makes you feel like you're the best version of yourself you can be as an instructor, as a teacher, and as a leader in your classroom. So I would encourage everyone to at least to look at the process, and if you have questions, to send me an email, and I'll be happy to discuss it.
Well, we definitely appreciate you encouraging everyone to do it and helping everybody through the process, as well as coming on to this podcast to help share more information with them about the process. And we appreciate our listeners for tuning in once again to the Education Exchange, where we aim to enlighten our parents and empower our students. We're looking forward to seeing you again next time.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Education Exchange. Have a question or want to be a guest on our podcast? Email podcast@tuhsd.org for more information. Missed an episode? Catch all seasons of the Education Exchange on your favorite streaming platforms or at www.tuhsd.org/podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Education Exchange.